Welcome to our English learning session. Prepare yourselves for a compelling journey as we delve into this story. Let us begin. In 1993, North Korea took a significant step. On March 12th, the nation declared its withdrawal from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. This major international accord was designed to prevent the spread of nuclear armaments. North Korea justified its exit as a necessary measure to defend against the United States, which was conducting military drills near South Korea. This move triggered a serious diplomatic crisis with the United States. By 1994, the situation had deteriorated critically, bringing the United States and North Korea to the verge of war. U.S. President Bill Clinton and his advisors contemplated forceful measures, including potential strikes on North Korea's nuclear facilities. Apprehension about a renewed conflict on the Korean peninsula was widespread. However, a single individual intervened to de-escalate the tension. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter, respected for his peacemaking efforts. Carter chose to visit Pyongyang, North Korea's capital. In June 1994, he traveled not as an official government representative, but as a private citizen. In Pyongyang, he engaged in talks with North Korea's leader, Kim Il-sung. This visit was instrumental in diffusing the dangerous standoff. Following these discussions, North Korea and the United States reached an agreement. On October 21, 1994, they signed what became known as the Agreed Framework. According to this pact, North Korea committed to halting its nuclear weapons development. In exchange, the United States pledged to supply a substantial amount of fuel oil annually. The U.S. also agreed to assist in constructing new power plants incapable of producing weapons-grade material. From this deal, North Korea drew a crucial lesson. It could obtain concessions, such as fuel. By leveraging threats related to its nuclear program subsequently, North Korea remained heavily isolated, contending with international sanctions that crippled normal trade. To ensure its survival and generate funds for the government and its elite, the country began to cultivate a different kind of economy, a hidden or shadow economy that functioned outside legal frameworks to raise money. The isolated nation initiated large-scale illicit activities. This included producing exceptionally high-quality counterfeit U.S. currency, often called superdollars. It also involved launching computer attacks against other nations to steal funds, a practice known as cybercrime. Furthermore, North Korea began illegally selling weaponry to various countries and groups. This chapter serves as an introduction to how North Korea utilized these unlawful methods, peddling threats, counterfeit currency, hacking, and arms sales to maintain its strength and finance its regime, despite its global isolation. The year 1991 marked the dissolution of the Soviet Union. For North Korea, this event was a profound economic shock. Previously, the Soviet Union had been a source of essential economic support, providing fuel, machinery, and electricity at subsidized rates. This crucial lifeline suddenly vanished. North Korea has no domestic oil reserves. It relied on fuel, oil, to operate its thermal power plants and produce electricity. Without this fuel, the power plants ceased to function. This resulted in extreme electricity shortages nationwide. Factories shut down, and cities were frequently left without power for light or heat. The nation's overall productivity plummeted. The energy crisis also severely impacted agriculture, leading to a collapse in crop yields. With diminished food supplies, a catastrophic famine unfolded in the 1990s. In North Korea, this era is known as the Arduous March. It was a period of profound suffering, with many perishing from starvation. It is estimated that hundreds of thousands, possibly around 600,000 people, lost their lives. The state was unable to provide sufficient food or meet the basic needs of its populace. Confronted with starvation, ordinary citizens began to break laws to survive. While private enterprise was officially forbidden and state-run stores were often empty, a black market rapidly emerged throughout the country. People started cultivating small plots of land for personal consumption. They exchanged goods in unofficial markets, desperate to earn any income. Even some state employees took part. For instance, naval patrol boats, intended for security sometimes, transported civilians, often relatives of officers, to go fishing. Catch was then sold, frequently for valuable US dollars, which had greater purchasing power on the black market than the official North Korean currency. This desperate struggle for survival propelled many into illegal activities. Unofficial trading, farming, and other clandestine enterprises became widespread. This difficult period fostered a generation of North Koreans adept at operating outside the law and dependent on informal or illegal ventures to sustain themselves and their families. This experience fundamentally shaped the future development of business within the country. Even amid hardship, the nation's leaders and affluent citizens desired luxury goods, which were often sourced from other countries. To acquire them, they required foreign currency, such as US dollars. North Korea devised a method to obtain this currency. The state began printing counterfeit US dollars. These forgeries were of such high quality they were nearly indistinguishable from real bills and became known as superdollars. How did this secret become public? The truth emerged through an individual named Sean Garland, an Irish political figure. In 2005, he was arrested by police in Northern Ireland. The United States sought his extradition, alleging that Garland was instrumental in distributing the counterfeit dollars in Europe. American authorities asserted that the fake currency originated from North Korea. The investigation identified Sean Garland as a key figure in this network. It was claimed he received bags of counterfeit dollars from the North Korean embassy in Moscow, Russia. He would then return to Ireland, easily cross the border into Northern Ireland, and exchange the fake dollars for genuine British pounds. This real currency was subsequently funneled back to North Korea, often via Moscow, used to purchase necessary goods from other nations. British police was conducting their own operation to trace the source of the counterfeit dollars identified individuals who had met with Garland in Moscow. Records confirmed Garland's visits to the North Korean embassy during that period. Former members of an Irish paramilitary group also implicated Garland. Following his arrest, Garland pleaded not guilty, claiming the U.S. case was politically motivated. Irish authorities ultimately declined to extradite him, though arrested in Northern Ireland, part of the UK. He was able to leave due to the open border with the Republic of Ireland. The case was taken up by Irish police, but no further action was taken. Later, North Korean officials were intercepted in Macau, China, carrying the same flawless counterfeit dollars. However, due to their diplomatic status, they faced no punishment and were simply allowed to leave. According to U.S. government estimates, North Korea generated significant income from these counterfeit bills, with some believing it was tens of millions of dollars annually. Other estimates suggest figures much higher, potentially hundreds of millions per year. This counterfeiting operation provided the government with a substantial amount of needed foreign currency. Helping to sustain the country and its leadership, North Korea embarked on another type of illegal enterprise too: generate revenue, manufacturing counterfeit cigarettes. They replicated the branding and appearance of popular Western cigarette brands. Producing these fake cigarettes was significantly cheaper for North Korea than for legitimate companies elsewhere, primarily because they did not have to pay excise taxes. These taxes are what make legal cigarettes expensive in most countries and are a source of government revenue. By evading these high taxes, North Korea could manufacture the counterfeit cigarettes at a very low cost, which helped them acquire the hard currency they needed. By the mid-2000s, approximately 12 large factories were dedicated to producing these illicit cigarettes. Once manufactured, the cigarettes were packaged into cartons, which were then loaded into large shipping containers. These containers were transported by sea to various destinations worldwide. To obscure their origin, the shipments were often routed through different locations, such as Hong Kong or the Philippines, before reaching their final distributors. This established a sophisticated global network for selling the counterfeit goods while evading easy detection. This business was extremely lucrative. If North Korea invested about $70,000 to fill a single large shipping container with fake cigarettes, it could often sell that same container for over $3 million in another country, representing a profit margin exceeding 4,000%. Occasionally, these shipments were intercepted. For instance, in 2006, Authorities in Greece seized a large consignment of North Korean counterfeit cigarettes valued at approximately $3.5 million, illustrating the scale of the operation. Selling these fake cigarettes globally became another significant source of illegal income for North Korea, contributing substantially to the country's unofficial revenue and supporting the government, its elite. In the year 2000, a landmark event occurred in Korea, for the first time since the nation's division decades earlier. The supreme leaders of North and South Korea met face to face. South Korea's President Kim Dae-jung went to Pyongyang, North Korea's capital, to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-il. This meeting initiated a period of improved relations and optimism, known as the Sunshine Policy. During this era, South Korea made active efforts to assist North Korea. The South supplied aid, including essential items like food and oil. South Korean corporations also began investing in collaborative projects in the North. The objective was to bolster North Korea's economy, making the country more stable and less isolated. Discussions were held regarding avenues for enhanced cooperation and the potential for an eventual reunification of Korea. However, a hidden element to this history was later revealed. South Korea had covertly paid the North Korean government a substantial sum of money to facilitate the summit. The South Korean president sought the meeting for the appearance of progress, which benefited him politically. North Korea consented to the meeting due to its desperate need for foreign currency. Yet, accepting the payment did not signify a genuine intention to reunify with the South. The ruling elite in North Korea harbored a deep-seated fear of actual unification. They recognized that merging with the far wealthier and more powerful, South Korea would result in the loss of their power and authority. The Kim family's dynasty would end. Moreover, many within this influential group had grown rich from enterprises that were illegal in other nations. Their shadow economy encompassed activities like counterfeiting and illicit trade. These ventures could not thrive in an open market environment and would be unable to compete with legitimate businesses from South Korea and the global community. Consequently, the North Korean elite was motivated to prevent any genuine progress toward unification. They preferred to maintain North Korea's separation and preserve their system of governance. This strategy protected their powerful positions and their highly profitable, albeit illegal, sources of income. Thus, despite moments of cordiality and dialogue, a profound fear of losing everything ensured the two Koreas remained fundamentally divided. The friendship was merely a fleeting moment. In 2002, North Korea implemented economic reforms. The leader, Kim Jong-il, aimed to improve conditions. Prior to this, private business ownership was illegal. Only the state could own companies and factories. However, as seen in earlier times, many people were already engaged in illicit business. To survive, the state opted for a new approach. It did not fully legalize private enterprise, as in other nations. Instead, it established a unique system. A person wishing to start a private business could now collaborate with a state office or organization. The private entrepreneur would pay a fee to this state entity, which acted as a share of their profits. In return, the state office permitted the private business to operate under its name. For example, a small private restaurant might be officially registered under a state ministry, even if that ministry had no connection to food services. This arrangement made the private venture appear legitimate on paper. This system fostered a gray economy. It was a hybrid model. Businesses were managed by private individuals, not the state, but they operated under the state's name and were required to pay the state. A variety of businesses emerged this way. People opened cafes, small shops, intercity bus services, and even operated fishing boats to sell their catch. State organizations favored this system as they received income from the private businesses. They could then report that their organization was highly profitable, even though the money was generated by private activity. This helped the state project an image of success. Private business owners also benefited. Their ventures were not entirely legal, but they weren't entirely illegal either, existing in a gray area. Partnering with a state office provided a degree of protection and simplified doing business without complete secrecy. This new system spurred economic growth in an unconventional manner, partially controlled by the state but driven by private capital. Following the events of 2001, circumstances changed significantly for North Korea. The United States, under President George W. Bush, labeled North Korea as part of an axis of evil, signifying that the U.S. viewed it as a dangerous nation. Subsequently, the U.S. discovered North Korea's clandestine uranium program for producing nuclear fuel. This program violated the 1994 agreement. As a result, the U.S. ceased its shipments of fuel oil and the construction of new power plants, leading to the complete collapse of the agreement. At this point, North Korea's leaders felt they had little to lose. They were already condemned by the U.S. and many other nations. In 2002, they announced they would openly resume their nuclear program. Then, in 2005, North Korea explicitly declared it possessed nuclear weapons. This prompted many countries to refuse engagement with them. Consequently, North Korea launched a vigorous new enterprise, selling guns and weapons. They manufactured inexpensive firearms, replicas of old Soviet guns and missiles. They sold these armaments to countries and groups that needed them but couldn't easily procure them from other sources. These buyers were often nations and factions under international sanctions. A large number of customers were in the Middle East and Africa. This arms trade generated substantial revenue for North Korea. It was a highly profitable venture that helped them acquire money when other countries imposed severe restrictions on them. Selling weapons was a method for North Korea to bypass standard international norms and still generate income. The United States was aware of North Korea's arms sales. In 2002, they intercepted a North Korean ship carrying missiles, believed to be destined for Yemen. However, because the vessel was North Korean, the U.S. eventually released it along with the missiles. This incident demonstrated North Korea's audacity in this trade. Between 2000 and 2008, North Korea engaged in numerous arms deals, approximately 415 large ones. They sold a variety of weapons, from large missiles to small arms and bombs, to countries like Syria and Iran, particularly during the Iran-Iraq War, and also to groups such as Hamas. These clients often lacked access to weapons from major suppliers. In the US or Europe, this arms trade was highly profitable for North Korea and bolstered its economy. A 2009 U.S. report estimated that North Korea earned about $1.5 billion annually from these weapon sales, accounting for roughly 9% of the country's yearly economic output, due to North Korea's possession of nuclear weapons and its arms sales. Two sanctioned entities, the international community intensified its pressure. The United Nations Security Council passed numerous new resolutions against North Korea, with 8 new ones between 2006 and 2016. These measures made it extremely difficult for North Korea to export nearly anything. Import oil. North Korean banks were also disconnected from the main international financial system. Consequently, North Korea had to devise even newer methods to obtain money and operate under these extensive restrictions. Their illicit businesses needed to become larger, more sophisticated, and more clandestine to generate funds that were harder for other nations to stop. After Kim Jong-il's death in 2011, his son, Kim Jong-un, assumed leadership at the age of just 27. His background was different from his father's. He had spent several years studying in Switzerland. This time abroad exposed him to the world beyond North Korea, particularly to technologies like computers and the internet. Under Kim Jong-un, the country's methods for generating revenue shifted. As North Korea grappled with numerous challenges, in stringent international sanctions, securing funds was difficult. Kim Jong-un identified the internet as a new opportunity. The government began to sponsor groups of highly skilled computer experts or hackers. A notable example is the Lazarus Group. These groups initiated major online attacks. For instance, in 2016, they infiltrated the computer system of the Central Bank of Bangladesh. They attempted to transfer nearly $1 billion from the bank's New York account to other locations. Due to some errors in security checks, most of the transfer was blocked. Nevertheless, the hackers successfully stole $81 million. This heist demonstrated to the world the significant threat posed by North Korean hackers. They also started stealing digital currencies, known as cryptocurrencies, by targeting online trading platforms. Reports indicate they have stolen billions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency over the years. This stolen digital money is then converted into conventional currency for government use. Another tactic involves dispatching North Korean IT specialists to work remotely for companies in other countries. These workers use fraudulent identities and information. The hiring companies are unaware of their North Korean origin. Once embedded within a company's computer network, these specialists begin their work.